We left off with the senior counsel controversy that is continuously evolving. Karen Yesishar is with us this morning. Karen, there was a point that you wanted to make prior to us taking that commercial break.
And you kind of jogged my memory on that. From the time that Christine Kangaloo was appointed, which I have nothing personal against, all the lovely things they said about her were true, and having their little tea parties and opening up the house thing, all of that was very nice. But I knew there was going to come an issue in which her being president, having come straight from the political dial, straight from it, would create a controversy. And it didn't take very long, because fit for purpose should be the test, based on the constitutional provisions and the independence and judgment that the Constitution provides for president. It would seem to me that bringing in someone who is politically aligned and so intimately was not good for the country. We did not do it with Paula May Weeks, regardless of what her views were. She was a Court of Appeal judge. And Fanika Mona, he was also a judge. Noor Hassan Ali, so it was not a good move. And now the chickens have come home to roost. And what do you expect the Prime Minister? I didn't even read what the Prime Minister said, because he had to justify. What are you going to say? It's bad? Of course you can't say that. But he has to try and say something, but he can't get around the fact what he knew. All of a sudden, you have to change your mind. Your Attorney General had one view, now he changed his mind. Please. I mean, that's insulting to us, really. But the point I did say I wanted to make was that in regards to the husband and the brother, I know both of them, but I don't know Colin in any way for me to give a view one way or the other. But I will give a view on her husband, Kerwin Garcia, because I taught him. He was a valedictorian. I was, in those early days, much closer to my students. He started dealing with my matter and done extensive work. He's a brilliant lawyer. He's very hardworking. He is committed to his profession, and more lately, I had been involved in a matter with the state in which I was a witness, and he was a junior to a senior. And I had the absolute confidence, and have had it for many years, that he is deserving of the rank of senior counsel. What is unfortunate for him is it would have been so much better had it been done by the previous president. Because, yes, they would have still say something. They would still say something. But you see what has happened now? It has put it has taken away from what he rightly deserves, in my opinion. Because people will say, don't worry, it's because that's her husband, that's why she got it. He got it. No, that's not fair to him. It is not fair to him. And it may not be fair to others, but particularly it would be with the brother and the husband. Can't comment on Colin Kangaloo, not for any other reason except I don't have that personal knowledge to be able to say I absolutely know he's deserving of it. And it is so unfortunate that he had to be made senior counsel by his wife. And it will follow him to the end of his days. And it will be said over and over again when it is so unfair to him. Why did they do that? And the final point I would like to make, we're talking all about the politics and politicians. That's why the Prime Minister should not be involved. This is not a selection of his cabinet. This is not a selection of those people he wants to run for MP. This is not a selection of people he wants to go in the Senate. That's political. He has a right to say that. That's his ground. These are lawyers. We are lawyers. I am a lawyer. The person to judge best your suitability to become senior counsel is the profession, not a politician who not only has a say, he has the final say. He says it, and there goeth. And you know what it does? It's unfair to the others, because maybe I might have my reservation about some of those who got it. I might have. I'm not going to say who or what. But what I do know, it put a stain on all or many of them. And it would not be the case had it been done by an independent committee made up of fellow attorneys of a certain caliber, including the Chief Justice, to determine his suitability of those to be awarded that. With the Prime Minister making that decision, that's political.
I think the Prime Minister has kind of unknowingly, well, I would hope.
Unknowingly?
I would hope. But yes, it's very hard to believe that he is doing it unknowingly. He is not necessarily careful with, his communication and his actions. And it seems as though he's willfully ignorant, or he wants to be about the optics, right? The optics of having wife bestow the privilege upon the husband, which will, as Karen said, follow him. He said that as Prime Minister, he is constantly cognizant of the oath he took, which says he will act without fear, favor, malice, or ill will. And I think on one hand, he's trying to say, I will be objective. But that also includes, well, look, he is deserving. I don't care that it's his wife that's the president. I don't care of the connections. I'm going to do it anyway. The problem is, it still looks bad.
No. I want you to get this point, please.
Yes.
If we take away anything out of this. It's not about the optics and all of what you just said. He himself acknowledged it was not right.
Exactly.
Right. So he himself knew it was not right. And when he became Prime Minister,
well, that's the second part of it.
Not the second part, that's the first and the end of it.
The second part of it is he seems to have a lot more latitude in his philosophy now.
I was just thinking that nothing is wrong with what the Prime Minister is saying, that he's constantly cognizant.
But he was calling for a different process back in 2011.
Sean, understand the Prime Minister's words. I am very much aware of the oath I took. That doesn't necessarily mean that I have to practice it, or I do practice it. Understand his words. He's not wrong in what he's saying.
He claimed that he even prevented one of his own parliamentarians from accepting.
So if he's very well aware of his oath, he knew that it was not right. His own words. The AG knew it was not right.
It gets better. It gets better.
He should say, I as Prime Minister, I'm going to remove myself from the process, and the recommendations that we made several times that a committee, as they do in England.
It gets better. You just said it would have been better for the former president to have bestowed upon certain individuals silk and not President Christine Kangaloo because of her relations. It gets better because I can't remember if it was a question or if he was just following up on his own statements. But the Prime Minister, right? But he basically said, with regards to, he heard things about why didn't the president recuse herself or not do it or do something. And this is what he said. The president basically spoke about, the Prime Minister basically spoke that the president did not have the latitude. He said the president's latitude that does not exist, right, in order to not carry out what was done. And I would just like to find out because he said in the constitution, the president does not have latitude. So I would like to know, with regards to the merit list, how come the president that had no latitude, the latitude did not exist, it was not stated, but we found latitude in
She did. What would have happened? When the list would have come to AG, you're not going to tell me that they sat down and looked at the list because you want to put the right people. So, yeah, at that stage,
but my point is, it's interesting. In some cases,
Keaton, we want to hear
the president does not have latitude, but in other cases, there's unwritten latitude.
Can we hear Keaton?
No, I don't have much to say because I think both of you all have suggested. One, it would not have wanted to allow Paula May Weeks to do it because that would have just taken away from her vacation time whilst in office. And two, at the same time, the mere fact that Christine Kangaloo actually, spoke at the ceremony, that she knows how it is going to look.
And she didn't care.
Exactly.
And she didn't care.
And that is the point. And the same way...
So forget them party stories and opening up the thing for bands and tea parties.
Precisely the same way that Lynette Seabrand Sweet, who the Attorney General acknowledged that she recused herself because of her position, because if I am to be correct, based on what I'm aware of, she was on the list and she recused herself.
When did they recuse herself?
In other words, even though that her name was on the list, she recused herself and nominated another member.
I think she also...
Right?
So why did she do that, though?
Because the AG contacted the law association.
Yes, and she is, you remember, the head of the law association.
I think she also recused herself.
She was probably thinking, this is not going to look good. So this is the thing.
They have people with some...
Exactly. So the thing is, if Christine Kangaloo spoke about it at the ceremony, she was well aware of how it's going to look. For me...
And she did not care.
The other aspect is, there is a high possibility that Colin Kangaloo and Kerwin Garcia, due to their years of practice and what they have achieved as attorneys of law, deserve it. It's just unfortunate that in her very first act as president, that this is what happens.
Didn't take long, did it?
It really didn't take
I was
long.
surprised. I thought I had to wait a little while.
I would like to point out that we more or less said the same thing about the current Attorney General. The very first thing that we more or less see in the press was the Miami situation.
Excuse me, exactly. So
So this tends to be a pattern.
Yes.
And by the way, we must also acknowledge that the Prime Minister, who is a friend to few, is not a friend of the Law Association. He seems to have a very bad taste in his mouth.
What is his place in this whole process of lawyers? Yes, senators. Yes, MPs. But lawyers, that's something for us to decide, our profession, and including the judges, the Chief Justice, senior members of the bar. Those are the ones who say, yes, when he appears in court.
The Prime Minister would have had a slightly better case if he did not say in 2011 that the process should be changed. But because he said, and it seems as though he's forgotten that he said that. Because I was willing to try to give him some, benefit of the doubt, but that just kind of sinks that.
It also takes away from the honor and prestige of being awarded silk. Because
I think so as well.
It kind of suggests that anyone can get silk as long as you know people in high places.
Toe the line.
Yes, as long as you know people in high places.
So it's political, it's not.
But
it's not professional.
Keaton, it's not just, from my knowledge of some people who I think should have been silk by now, it's not just, you have to understand, it's like, this is not political MP who was a comedian yesterday, and I say, yes, it's not that kind of thing. It's a person who has earned that thing, reputation, It's not something that you give away. And what I'm saying is, there are a lot of people who are afraid to take briefs which would be critical of the government or critical of the Prime Minister because they are looking to be made senior counsel, and they know if they do that, and why should a Prime Minister have that power over our legal profession? Keep it to the MPs, keep it to your senators. That's politics, but not to the legal profession.
Not only is it muzzling or potentially muzzling what should be an independent institution, it's also a poor example, again, potentially watching the leaders of our society not be held accountable, watching advancement not based off of merit, and then why do you expect people look at the way how society works and says,
could have done something about it? That's the point. He could have done something about it.
We're more or less out of time for this part.
You're sounding exhausted.
But I mean, again, the possibility that Colin Kangaloo and Kerwin Garcia deserving this honor, I will not take away from that. There is a possibility. It's just unfortunate how this entire process is carried out. But I have nothing against Kerwin Garcia and Colin Kangaloo.
I will support Kerwin. Not against Colin, but I know Kerwin.
I have nothing personally against them because I don't know. Well, I mean, Colin Kangaloo is a supporter of Liverpool Football Club, and we will always disagree on that. I have a strong position against that Colin Kangaloo. Come on, better than that.
Why, Keaton, your football bias is
yes, I mean, come on. But anyway.
Okay, if it was a football thing, then we would get vexed with you.
Congratulations.
For not making him thing because you're vexed against him, so you're using your power to keep him on. That's what they're doing with this. Anyhow, I think we were exhausted.
It's a decent analogy, but let's take a break here first.
You thought it was a decent one?
We'll be right back after this.